Good afternoon. I would like to welcome everyone here, those attending in person as well as those watching over the internet. My name's Albert Johnston. I'm the chair of the Saskatchewan Rate Review Panel. We're hosting this meeting tonight as part of our mandate to seek public input with respect to the rate application, as well as providing information to the public about the rate application from SaskEnergy. This application includes a rate increase both for the commodity and for the delivery charge. As part of this meeting, there'll be a presentation by representatives from SaskEnergy with an opportunity to ask questions following their remarks. Those who are here in person can ask questions directly. If you're on the internet, there is an email address associated with that you can send a question in by email. I'm going to turn it over now to the acting president and CEO, Marc Guillet, and he will be part of the presentation as well as introduce the other members of the SaskEnergy people. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start with introduction of who I've got along with us here from SaskEnergy. I got Lori Christie, who is our Executive Vice President for Corporate Planning, and also Jason Schell, he's our Director of Policy, Services, and Rates. Got it today. Before we get going, I'd like to start the meeting here by doing a land acknowledgement. An acknowledgement that we are on traditional lands referred to as Treaty 4 territory, the original lands of the Cree, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, and home of the Métis. We respect and honor the treaties and are committed to moving forward with Indigenous nations in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. I'd also like to do a safety moment. At SaskEnergy, prior to doing any meetings, we do a safety moment. And today, with the weather change we've had since the weekend, I'm going to, for my safety moment today, is just talk about getting ready for winter. Kind of fitting that we're talking here about gas and that, but what I want to talk about is our vehicles. The importance of putting on winter tires on vehicles makes a big difference in driving in Saskatchewan. And so, although we're not having the snow yet, it's the time to maybe perhaps look at those winter tires that you took off your vehicle in the springtime. Just make sure that they're going to be in good shape for going through the winter. And if you do need to get some, then you can purchase some new ones and get them done. Get your booking in to get the vehicle winter tires ready to go, because there's a tendency that we kind of wait till that first snowfall, and then I know the garages and that are all overbooked and it's trying to get it in. So it's a little bit of planning and doing that. And if you're going to do it yourself, make sure you have all of the proper safety equipment, you know, having the not only a jack to lift your vehicle, but also have a jack stand to prepare for in case something happens with the jack, and to be wearing the proper equipment also, you know, the safety glasses on, some gloves, and the proper footwear. So that's the safety moment I wanted to share here today. So for what we're looking at today in our presentation, got a little bit of an agenda up on the screen there. I'm going to start off with providing a little bit of background and some context for, you know, the company and what we're actually doing. I'll turn it over to Lori to talk about the specifics of the delivery service rate application details, and she'll kind of walk through that. And then Jason will talk about the commodity rate application details, and then Lori will then talk about what's the specific customer impact that we're having. You know, what's that bill impact going to be for the proposal that we have before the panel. So just starting off with the customer profile, we have four main customer groups that we have, what we call it. The largest customer group that we have is the residential customer group. That's about 362,000 customers. We have over 400,000 customers in total, and the largest portion is that residential. And what the residential customer class is, that's folks like you and I in our homes using up to about 10,000 cubic meters of gas. And that would be whether you're living in towns, urban, or out in the rural. So that's the largest customer class we have at SaskEnergy. If you're using up over 10,000 cubic meters, we have another class which we call the commercial small class. And that's about 41,300 customers in that particular rate class. And that's the ones that we see in your Main Street type businesses. You know, whether it's restaurants or you have small hospitals, the curling rinks, local curling rinks. And like I said, that's for gas usage up to that 100,000 cubic meters. If you're using over that, you move into that next commercial class, which is we call the commercial large class. And we have currently about 1,550 customers in that class. And they use gas up to that 660,000 cubic meters of gas. For examples of what would fit into that rate class group, that's your hotels. It's been hotels, any of those warehouse business buildings that use larger amounts of gas. The largest customer class we have for volume-wise is anybody who's using over that 660,000 cubic meters of gas, and we call it the small industrial. That's our smallest rate class we have. We only have 27 customers that are currently in that group. And that's your larger hospitals that would fit into that category, or some manufacturing type businesses that would be in that category. This particular slide that we've got up right now is a depiction of all of the types of, all of the utilities that we have across Canada. And it's more to be able to see what area that they cover off in providing gas. You see Saskatchewan, we have that orangish, dark orange color showing where our distribution facilities are located. It's more that inhabited portion, larger areas. It's that whole part of the province. We cover that span of the province. We have a lot of distribution pipe. We have over 70,000 kilometers of pipe. To give an idea of how much pipe that is, you think of the circumference of the Earth as about 40,000 kilometers. If you took all of our pipe and you ran it around, you could run just about twice the circumference of the Earth. So that gives you that length of pipe, to give you some context of how much pipe we actually have out in the ground, and with a population of Saskatchewan. You see some of the other larger utilities in the east. If you look in Ontario, you've got Enbridge Gas, has a lot of customers, but they have a very narrow band of where they cover. But it's very, the population is very dense there compared to what we have in Saskatchewan. And you look at some of the other jurisdictions. But this is, a slide that we use from the Canadian Gas Association that just shows all of the various utilities across Canada, the size of their area that they cover. And this is more just to be able to see and put into context when we start talking about some of the comparisons that, Jason may be putting in or Lori may be talking about. It's just to set that context and visually to kind of see what area is covered off. When we look specifically at our delivery service and our distribution system, I talked a little bit about, the amount of pipe we have. That orange area that we're showing in Saskatchewan, that covers 380,000 square kilometers of service. We have over 400,000 customers that we actually distribute gas to. And when you start looking at some of the comparisons to the other jurisdictions, the graph is a little bit of a busy graph, but it's trying to show both the kilometers of pipe and the amount of customers in their franchise area that they have. So Saskatchewan, if you look at it, like I said, there was over 400,000 customers and 70,000 kilometers of pipe. We have a little bar graph on the bottom that talks about the number of customers per kilometer of pipe. So even though we've got a vast area we cover, the population and the number of customers we have, it's really about 6 customers per kilometer of pipe is what we have. So keep that in context when you're looking at, when we start talking about costs and how we're maintaining costs and dealing with costs. You compare that to, as I mentioned before, Enbridge. You look at Enbridge, they have over 2 million customers, and you're looking at the kilometers of pipe is slightly over 40,000. The important piece is that you look at the number of customers per kilometer of pipe. It's much more densely populated, and that's 51 customers per kilometer compared to Saskatchewan, which is 6 customers per kilometer of pipe. And then you look at our neighbors to the east, Central Gas, Manitoba. They have just about 291,000 customers, and the kilometers of pipe is slightly over 10,000 kilometers of pipe. So they're running about 27 customers per kilometer. So when we're doing some of those comparisons, just keep this in the back of your mind, because it is going to affect on some of the things that we're talking about. So our facilities go across a large area, not a densely populated area in Saskatchewan. We have 406,000 customers approximately is what we have. So with that context, we got talking a little bit about our bill. So I wanted to provide a little bit of context on what constitutes and what makes part of our bill. Our bill has two main areas for charges. The one area is the commodity rate. That's what's shown there in the green, and that is basically the cost of the natural gas. And that we have what's called a gas consumption charge, and currently that makes up about 38% of the total bill in our SaskEnergy bill. And that's basically a flow-through. SaskEnergy, like other distribution companies, do not make any profit or margin on the commodity cost. So we pass that through at cost. In order to be able to track, the actual cost we have also to what we charge to customers, that differential, we do keep what's called a gas cost variance account, and that keeps, if the costs are higher or than what we're actually recovering, or the other way around. That gas cost variance account, you're going to hear some references to that. But that is really what comes into that whole commodity rate, and it's a gas consumption charge, and that's based on a volumetric basis. So it's it's cents per cubic meter of gas that you actually use at your home, and it's metered. The other part of the bill talks about the delivery service rate. Whoops, sorry. And the delivery service rate is broken into two different components. There's what we call a basic monthly charge, and that's a dollars per month charge. That's a fixed charge. And that doesn't depend upon the volume of gas that you're purchasing or using. It's a fixed charge, and that's intended to recover some of those fixed costs for your service line, your meter, any meter reading that has to be done, or any maintenance that has to be done, customer account management, and that's a fixed rate on that. And the second part of that is what we call the delivery charge, and that's a volumetric charge. So that's cents per cubic meter that you actually, the gas that flows through, there's an actual charge for delivery of that, for that service. And that covers off things for costs involved with the transportation, the storage, the actual distribution of the gas, and any of the maintenance. Now that whole delivery service portion of the bill, that actually makes up 62% of your bill. So that's the total component that we have on that. The other important piece that we've got on the slide, I know it's a busy slide, and it's important to remember, that even though SaskEnergy has a distribution franchise in the province of Saskatchewan, that only deals with the delivery service, the actual pipe and coming to the service to get the gas to your home. The actual commodity itself, the natural gas, that can be purchased from SaskEnergy, or you can actually go to a gas retailer. So there's no franchise on that piece. That's open to competitive markets. And so I just wanted to point that out also, that there is a differential on what is SaskEnergy's franchise. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lori Christie, and she's going to walk us through the details of the delivery service rate application.
Okay, thanks. So where are we here? Okay, so what SaskEnergy is proposing is an increase of 8% to its delivery service rates for this year, followed by 5% in 2023 and 5% in 2024. What this means for a typical residential customer is about $3.57 per month this year, $2.43 per month next year, and $2.53 per month in 2024. We last increased the delivery service rates on April 1st, 2019, when they moved up 3.4%. I appreciate this is a lot, so I'm going to focus on the drivers for the application. First of all, despite a growing customer base, revenues from delivery have not grown over the past number of years. This is driven by customers becoming much more energy efficient, so the average amount of natural gas each customer consumes, sorry about that, I've got it on the wrong. Each customer consumes continues to decline. This is a good thing in that it saves customers money and reduces emissions, but it does present a challenge from a delivery revenue perspective. The drivers on the expense side include continuing to invest in our infrastructure to ensure a safe and reliable supply of natural gas to your home, environmental sustainability, enterprise security, and of course inflation. Our employees do drive around 10 million kilometers every year, and we are noticing the step change in gasoline prices, as well as large increases from our suppliers for such things such as pipes and fittings, for example. So I'm going to start, beginning with system growth. As I noted, the amount of natural gas being used is declining, but the number of customers that want natural gas continues to grow. So the major centers, particularly both in Regina and Saskatoon, continue to build new subdivisions, and the developers and customers alike want the natural gas. It remains the most affordable source of energy. Over the next 3 years, we are spending an average of $38.5 million each year on system expansions. From a reliability and safety perspective, we spend an additional $50 to $55 million annually on risk management. This type of activity includes things like our service upgrade program. Some soil conditions are more prone to shifting, and with that, the service line connecting gas to your home can separate from the gas main. We have a program that replaces the service lines in certain neighborhoods over a number of years. Also, as our mains age, we sometimes need to replace them. Other activities include things like running tools through the pipelines to identify possible areas of corrosion. And our stations do last a long time, but they eventually too need to be replaced. So these activities all require capital, and we have set it up so that we spend about the same amount of money each year addressing the highest risk areas on the system. So safety, I want to spend some time on it. It is the front and center of everything we do. And external interference, which is when other contractors or customers are digging and hit our gas line, is the largest single threat to our gas line system. We therefore invest a lot of time and money on educating the general public on safe digging practices. Getting a line locate before you do work in your yard or whenever you need to dig is worth the time it takes. Our goal is to reduce the number of line hits on our system, thereby preventing damage to our infrastructure. Natural gas is a fossil fuel, albeit the cleanest burning of fossil fuels. It is also one of the most safe, reliable, and affordable forms of energy. But when it is combusted or released to the atmosphere, greenhouse gases are emitted. Caring about the environment means we need to do everything we can to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We have always focused on reducing emissions, but now we are increasing our efforts. So we made a commitment to reduce our emissions from our operations by 35% by 2030. Emissions within our operations come from 5 main categories: combustion, flaring, venting, fugitives, and electricity. We've recently developed a roadmap to ensure that we reach our goal. Some of the areas we are focusing on take investments such as adding more solar panels to our town border stations. Others are general operating costs, such as enhancing our leak detection program. And other things are really just shifting our operating practices. At times during maintenance, rather than vent natural gas to the atmosphere, we're looking for ways that we could capture that gas or at the very least flare it. In the natural gas value chain, only about 2 to 4% of emissions come from transporting and distributing natural gas. However, about 80% comes from when customers burn natural gas in their appliances. So we made a second commitment to help customers reduce emissions from natural gas. The largest investment in this area is increasing our energy efficiency programs. We are expanding our residential programs for those in energy poverty. We've added new eligible equipment under commercial rebate programs, and we are supporting industry with new technology as buildings progress to net zero. We are also working on communicating and educating customers more when it comes to energy usage. For example, we've initiated a new bill presentment project that when it's complete, we will provide you with more information on your gas usage. Enterprise security. When we speak about enterprise security, we're talking both about IT, information technology, as well as OT, or operations technology. With the threat of cyber criminal activity increasing every day, top corporations around the globe are prioritizing cybersecurity as one of the #1 risks. SaskEnergy manages critical infrastructure and plays a vital role in the lives of the people of Saskatchewan by providing heat to homes and businesses. A major disruption to SaskEnergy could create life-threatening impacts to the health and safety of people who use SaskEnergy services if a cyber attack was able to impact the operation of the pipeline, particularly in the dead of winter. SaskEnergy is working through a multi-year remodeling of the cyber program, which is being continuously improved. The cybersecurity program at SaskEnergy considers protection of traditional information technology systems and has expanded the program to include the operational technology systems. This cohesive approach ensures that comprehensive cyber controls are in place across all of our systems. One of the basic elements of cybersecurity is adequate staffing. So in 2019, our enterprise security consisted of 3 employees and 3 contract resources. In 2022, this area has matured to include 6 employees and 9 contract resources. These individuals are responsible for monitoring, enhancing, and investigating SaskEnergy systems and processes to safeguard against current and incoming threats. To help minimize the amount of rate increase we need, SaskEnergy continues to focus on reducing costs through productivity and efficiency gains. Through collaboration with other Crown corporations, we have been able to save a lot of money. We've been doing things like joint infrastructure servicing and line locating with other Crowns for a number of years now. This does save us between $1 and $2 million each year. A new initiative that we are now working on is leasing our vehicle fleets jointly with other Crowns in order to get a better price. And then moving to the middle there, looking through the lens of business process changes, things like GIS, Geographic Information System Mapping, has made many of our processes so much more efficient. For example, when a customer wants a high-level quote on getting natural gas service, they can just click on our map on our website and they can receive a ballpark quote estimate of what it would cost rather than phoning someone at SaskEnergy. Another good example is our new environmental assessment tool. Now in a matter of minutes, an assessment can be done on whether a job can proceed immediately or if it does require a more wholesome assessment. We're also looking at simplifying the process from when a customer is connected to our system right through to the billing of that customer. And then looking over to the far right there, leveraging technology, we're continuing to do that. We are in the process of implementing a new customer portal that will greatly enhance customer self-serve and save us money. In our daily operations, initiatives are targeted to both improve service and lower costs while maintaining a focus on safety and reliability. In operations, we are committed to improve efficiencies, and that is being done through a data-driven management operating approach, where analysis of data does optimize the work time and key performance indicators support decision-making. We've also consolidated SaskEnergy's work management system with that of our subsidiary, TransGas. Through both of these initiatives, we are able to improve capacity, so it does take fewer people to do the same amount of work. As we improve operational effectiveness, we're also ensuring that our safety culture remains at the forefront with high engagement from both supervisors and staff. Customer convenience. As you all know, in this day and age, customers want to be able to do most of their business on their smartphone or their computer. So to respond to this, we are modernizing our customer portal on the website, which will allow us to streamline processes and add automation to current manual tasks. Customers will be able to update account information, have more digital payment options, and be able to see their billing usage information. It will be especially efficient for property owners in that they will be able to self-manage tenant changes. We're also working on online appointment booking, where customers can book their own appointments for things like meter exchanges rather than phone a customer service representative. Both the customer portal and online appointment booking will allow us to reduce costs. Our customer contact center is also evolving as we employ more data-driven management and technology utilization, as well as provincial scheduling. When it comes to construction, we're always seeking continuous improvement. A few years ago, we spent a lot of time streamlining the construction process, including scheduling, and it has had a substantial impact on decreasing costs. Despite rising costs associated with the supply chain issues we've been experiencing, inflation, wage pressure, we are able to reduce the average cost of service replacements from $4,559 to $4,559 per site, which is a 10% reduction over last year. Within our new facilities just outside Regina, we now have the capabilities to fabricate more of the materials we require than that we had previously contracted out. All in all, our hourly construction costs in the last year have declined by 7.5%. Like operations, safety remains the top priority in construction. With the changes we made to the construction process, we have also elevated our commitment to safety, with management dedicating more time to crews in the field, increased time for safety reviews, and sharing safety learnings. As Mark mentioned earlier, the delivery rates represent the cost to run our business, the investment in infrastructure to deliver gas to your home. By the end of year 3, if approved, rates will increase an average of $59 per year. From strictly a delivery service rate perspective, our rates will still be competitive compared to other utilities across Canada, as illustrated in this chart. Also, I want to point out this chart assumes that none of the other utilities will increase their rates over the next 3 years. I don't know. I don't think that's very likely. We're probably going to see at least someone increase rates given all the pressure on it. And finally, here, looking at this slide does detail the average monthly increase by rate class for the delivery rates portion of the application. The first year is the largest increase, and you will notice that, an 8.1% delivery increase, the impact on the total bill is only about 5%. And again, that's because the bill is made up of both delivery service and commodity rates. So an average increase of 8% does not equate to that same impact on your bill. Also, you may have noticed that each rate class is receiving a slightly different increase. When it comes to rate design, we follow standard regulatory practice where the revenues generated from that rate class should cover the cost to serve that particular rate class. How we measure that is through a metric called the revenue to cost ratio. Regulatory practice is to have a revenue to cost ratio that is between 95% and 105% of costs, recognizing that you cannot get perfection. So based on our models and the recommended changes, each rate class will remain within this acceptable range each year. And now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Jason Schell to provide you with some details on our commodity rate application.
Thanks, Lori. So as Mark mentioned, we did apply for an increase to delivery and commodity with this particular rate application. I'm going to discuss the commodity rate portion. SaskEnergy's applied for a commodity rate of $4.20 per gigajoule. The rate charge for natural gas contains no markup. It's strictly a pass-through, with variances between what we pay and what we charge being accumulated in the gas cost variance account. The GCVA is the balance of the GCVA is either refunded to or collected from customers with each commodity rate application. So the 420 per gigajoule that SaskEnergy has applied for does represent an increase from the previous rate of 320 per gigajoule, which came into effect on November 1st, 2021. That rate increase is necessary to reduce the GCVA balance and to purchase gas at market, which I'll talk a little bit about in the next slide. So as you can see from this chart, the natural gas market is quite volatile. More recently, we've seen increases in natural gas, with it actually exceeding $8 per gigajoule at some points this year. And there are a number of factors that contribute to that. We've seen demand for gas increase as coal continues to be phased out in many parts of the world. Meanwhile, we've seen less investment in new production as oil and gas shareholders prefer higher paying dividends rather than investing in increased production. Liquefied natural gas export capacity out of the United States has increased over the last year, which means that more gas is leaving the continent. And finally, prices have been driven up by the war in Ukraine and the resulting European energy security crisis. I want to talk a little bit about how the gas supply is managed in Saskatchewan. Roughly 90% of the 60 million gigajoules of gas purchased this year will come from Alberta. And that portion purchased from Alberta increases as Saskatchewan production decreases, which has been the case over the last decade. SaskEnergy buys the same amount of gas every day throughout the year and injects it into storage in the summer when when demand isn't that high. And this allows us to ensure that we have adequate supply in the winter when demand is higher for heating homes and businesses, and we take it out of storage when needed. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we manage the price risk associated with the purchase of natural gas. One of our objectives is to maintain rate stability and competitiveness. In order to achieve this, we have a commodity price risk management or hedging strategy that locks in the price of natural gas for the future. Approximately 87% of natural gas prices are hedged over the next 5 years. And this allows us to shield, to some extent, customers from the volatility of the natural gas market, which is why we can propose a commodity rate that is substantially lower than the actual market price for natural gas right now. So what does this mean for customers? Well, it means that customers pay the lowest rate, currently pay the lowest rate for gas in the country. And you can see from this chart that in some other regions, customers are paying more than double the commodity rate that Saskatchewan customers are paying. I just want to touch a bit on the overall commodity bill impacts. As Lori mentioned, following the rate design practices that we do, the increases are not felt equally among all rate classes. And residential customers will see a sizable increase, but the smallest increase among all the rate classes. At this point, I'll turn it back to Lori to discuss the overall bill impact.
Okay, so as noted throughout the presentation, the customer bill is made up of both delivery service and commodity rates. This slide does summarize the impact of both components, with the commodity rate and the change in natural gas prices being the largest component. Over the 3-year period, the average residential customer would see an increase totaling $16.91 per month. However, I do want to point out that we do review our commodity rate annually. If natural gas prices do change substantially, we will adjust our rate either higher or lower. Having a balance in the GCVA also impacts the rate. Right now, we are recovering a large balance in the GCVA through the commodity rate. When that is recovered, and considering the hedges that we do have in place, there is a high probability that we could lower the commodity rate next year unless natural gas prices do spike again considerably. So we're watching it very closely, and we'll see how things unfold there. Before I turn the presentation back to the chair, I do want to share a little bit about the competitiveness of natural gas. Most residents in Saskatchewan use natural gas for both home heating as well as water heating. What customers may not know is that the amount of energy it takes to do these two functions makes up about 70% of your household energy requirements. So it does take a lot of energy to run your furnace and your water heater. And so that 25 to 30% of energy requirements is typically met with electricity. So this slide illustrates a residential customer total bill over the past 15 years. And as you can see, we can lower your bills through when natural gas prices do drop, because that's why we've got that variability in there. Is when we've seen prices drop a lot, we're able to lower our commodity rate, and when prices move up, we've had to, give you some modest increases. With the rates we are proposing, though, right now, the typical residential natural gas bill will be similar to what it cost in 2006. So that is really good value for the amount of energy that you do receive. However, if your total energy bill does seem higher, that's because it is. So just flipping to this next slide here, beginning on April 1 of 2019, the federal government introduced the carbon tax, or levy as it is formally referred to, shown in that dark purple color. The carbon levy is applied against fossil fuels and escalates each year. There is also GST charged on that carbon levy. So right now, these taxes make up over 25% of your bill, and that amount is growing each year. In 2024, carbon levy and taxes is going to make up over 34% of a residential customer bill. So the best way to lower your bill is through energy efficiency. I know earlier in the presentation, when I was talking about the delivery service rate pressure, I mentioned declining use per customer. However, for a residential customer, only about half of the delivery charge is the volumetric rate. The other half is basic monthly charge. So it is true it does impact our delivery revenue, but the amount you are saving on the commodity rate and the carbon tax outweighs that so much that it is the best thing to do in the long run, plus you're reducing emissions. So this is why SaskEnergy is investing in more energy efficiency programs. Just in closing, I really do appreciate rate increases are never easy. I want to illustrate that when you look at both the delivery and commodity rates, so SaskEnergy does continue to have the lowest residential bills in Canada. And so with that, I'm actually going to turn the meeting back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Lori. Is there any questions from the floor, or is there any questions on the internet? No? Okay. Hearing none, I would like to thank, do you have a question?
I do, and I'm not meaning to be presumptuous. I think that SaskEnergy is an excellent company, very well managed and run, and has been for years. And I appreciate the fact that they, in fact, will reduce their rates, when possible. And I understand that there's all manner of need to increase revenues and defray expenses. This is not meant to be a political question. It's a straightforward question. I wonder, could you tell me, please, what dividend is taken by the Crown Investments Corporation and the general revenue fund from the earnings of SaskEnergy on an annual basis? And if that weren't the case or lower, could these rates be forestalled?
Just so that the question goes out to the internet, the question is whether and how much of a dividend is paid by SaskEnergy to the Crown Investments Corporation, and whether the impact of that dividend, or how much of an impact that dividend has on rates. So maybe I'll let one of you talk. I don't know if there's, does that might work? Yeah. Talk.
Yeah, so I don't have the breakdown exactly on the distribution side. The dividend rate is basically on our consolidated earnings for our other entity also. So we brought in, and it's 35%.
It's
35% of our consolidated income. I don't have the breakdown, unfortunately, for exactly what it would come down for the distribution side.
So Cabinet then has the job and the option of either accepting your recommendations or reducing them, I suppose, your ask. Would that be the case?
Yes, the panel we are in the midst of reviewing this application, and we will be presenting our recommendations to the minister on December the 16th. From there, it is analyzed and so on by Cabinet and by government, and they will make an eventual decision on whether they accept our recommendation or some variation of that compared to what the company has asked for. So. Any other questions? No? With that, I would like to thank people from SaskEnergy for their presentation and the information they have provided. As I mentioned, the panel will be taking all of the information provided by SaskEnergy. We have consultants who are looking at it, and we will be presenting our report to the minister on December the 16th, or at least that's the scheduled date. And from there, it will be decided by the government as to what the rate increase will eventually be. I should point out as well that the rate increase proposed covers 3 years, and we will be looking at a financial update for each of the second and third year and making a more formal recommendation on those rates at that time. So, thank you for attending, and thank you for listening on the internet as well.